Hello everyone, my name's Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT13, and BT13 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration of the Jesmon deck. So Jesmon did get a brand new evolutionary line in BT13 for us to incorporate, and the deck already was a pretty solid field spam deck, wanting to play around with our Sistermons, and our Sistermons are going to be playing around with our Royal Knights and our Huckmons to be able to make all of our cards as effective as they possibly can, and the BT13 line just tries to help it utilize our cards even more efficiently. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. So, starting off with the Digitamas, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gurimon. So this is the BT8 version of Gurimon, and this is just one of Red's best generic draw engine Digitamas to try to make our deck as consistent as we possibly can make it. And speaking of consistency, next on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Huckmon from BT6. So Huckmon here is one of the best searching or digging tools to increase the overall consistency of the deck, allowing us to try to dig the top 5 for 2 cards with Huckmon, Jesmon, or Sistermon in its name, and add them into our hand. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of the Huckmon from BT7, just for some added consistency when we're trying to look for our Sistermons, so we can try to toolbox our Sistermons a little bit more efficiently. Because its inheritable ability allows us to be able to look at the top 5 for all Sistermons among them and add them into our hand when our Digimon is going to be attacking. But the real star of the Jesmon deck is going to be found inside of the BT13 line. So as a result, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT13 Huckmon because it has a nice passive ability for when we're playing our Sistermons to be able to digivolve into our BaoHuck for free, allowing us to try to tempo up into our higher stages. Then on top of that, its inheritable ability helps with the overall memory efficiency for when our Sistermons get played, we get to gain 1 memory, so we have lots of different effects to either play our Sistermons for free, and then this will help net us even more memory to make more powerful plays possible, or lessen the cost of our Sistermons when we need to play them ourselves. And then the last Huckmon of the deck is going to be 2 copies of the Promo Huckmon. So even though this has absolutely nothing to do with Sistermons and what the rest of the deck is doing, it's still just a solid card because it's a security Digimon with the Huckmon name. So because it's a security Digimon, it adds another potential security threat on either A, deleting one of the opponent's low-level Digimon, or B, if no Digimon was deleted, drawing us a card. So it's either help removing opponent's threats or adding consistency into the deck, while this card is also being added into the hand. And then as far as our not Huckmon rookies that we're going to be playing around with, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Sistermon Blanc from BT6. So this is really good when we're stuck and we need to try to increase the overall consistency of our deck because its on-playability is just letting us draw a card, and then while she's sitting passively on the field, as long as we have another Huckmon or Royal Knight Digimon on our field, all of our Sistermons will gain the blocker ability, making it so that the opponent is going to have a potential wall of Sistermons they're going to have to punch through. And then the other Sistermon of the deck is going to be 2 copies of the starter deck Sistermon Blanc. So her on-play ability is doing something very similar to the old Sistermon Blanc, where we're still going to be drawing cards, but we have to discard 1 to be able to draw 2, which for this deck is not that bad, trying to fill up our trash with some more selective targets. Then, on top of that, her all turns ability is adding a little bit extra protection into the deck because as long as we have a Huckmon or Royal Knight traded Digimon in play, this Digimon is going to gain Decoy Red or Black to try to prevent the opponent from being able to delete our main Digimon. And then when it comes to the level 4 Hucks, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT6 BaoHuck. So this is a pretty decent card at just having some extra control for the deck for when our higher stage Digimon is going to be attacking and we have a Sistermon on our field, then it's going to delete one of the opponent's mid to low level Digimon. But as far as the main level 4 BaoHuck that we want to be utilizing, that's going to go to the brand new BT13 version of BaoHuckmon. So this has a lot of parallels to literally what we just saw with the BT13 Huckmon, where when we're playing our Sistermon, while this is just passively on our field, it allows us to digivolve into the next stage, which will be our Savior, for a reduced cost. Then, as an inheritable ability, it's doing exactly the same as the BT13 Huckmon, allowing us to gain a memory when we play out our Sistermons. And then to round out the rest of our level 4 lineup and our Sistermon lineup, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Sistermon Ciel from BT6. So she's one of the more efficient Sistermon Ciels for us to use because her on-play ability gains us a memory, so she's only realistically costing us 3 instead of 4. Then her All Turns ability adds another nice passive buff to our Digimon, where our Royal Knight and Huckmon based Digimon will gain plus 2000 DP, so that way they can hit higher numbers and hit over certain thresholds that they would need to hit over. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Sistermon Ciel from BT10, so this is another really solid Sistermon for us to use, especially since the new BT13 line wants us to try to turbo up into our higher stages. This is a fantastic card to play off of that. So her on-play ability allows us to have one of our Digimon digivolve into a Digimon with Royal Knights in its traits from our hand by paying its Digivolution cost, so that way we could hard play this card and start being able to digivolve into our higher stage Digimon, especially with the cost reduction of the BT13 line. Then, on top of that, she even has a nice secondary ability that pairs up with her on-play ability for when our Digimon digivolves into a Huckmon or Royal Knight-based Digimon, then we're going to be able to gain a memory, which she is setting up herself on top of the BT13 ones, also setting them up themselves just by playing this card. And then the last champion and last Sistermon I'm going to be running is going to be 2 copies of the Sistermon Ciel from the starter deck. So this is another solid consistency tool, looking at the top 3 for our Huckmon and Royal Knight based Digimon. Then on top of that, her All Turns ability is giving our Huckmon and Royal Knight based Digimon the reboot ability for some extra added defensive capabilities. And then when it comes to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new BT13 version of SaviorHuckmon. So this has that same style of ability that we saw with the BT13 Huck and BaoHuck, where when we play a Sistermon, we get a Digivolve into a Jesmon for a reduced cost. Then on top of that, it even has a nice inheritable ability where it allows us, so when we're attacking, to be able to play a Sistermon from our hand or trash for free, so that way we could try to use and reuse the Sistermons that we want and need. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of the starter deck SaviorHuckmon. So the starter deck SaviorHuckmon's when digivolving ability isn't the greatest, but it's still pretty good at adding some extra control for the deck by allowing this Digimon to attack at the opponent's unsuspended Digimon. So the fact that we have that type of ability allows us to clear potential threats we might not be able to otherwise. Then on top of that, the real pull and reason why we're running this card is for its inheritable ability, because it's the exact same inheritable ability that we just saw with the BT13 SaviorHuckmon. And then the other level 5 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Kimeramon. So even though Kimeramon isn't a Huckmon and it isn't a Royal Knight based Digimon, it's still just a very versatile card, especially for how this deck wants to play. Because we're going to want to try to play as many of our Sistermons as we possibly can, there's a lot of Sistermons that are level 4, so we could use our level 4s alternatively to be able to not only Digivolve on top of, but to line up a nice DNA play to, again, try to accelerate our Digivolutions into our higher stage Digimon. So the fact that we could take any 2 level 4s, regardless of color, and DNA into this card is what's making it so appealing, especially since we have ways to be able to play our level 4s for free. Then, on top of that, its when digivolving ability is really good at being able to stack its inheritable sources, so we could have some abilities that we want or need when we're climbing up our stages by placing a level 5 Digimon or lower from our trash to the bottom of its Digivolution source. Then it even has some nice alternative forms of control, where then up to 4 of the opponent's Digimon loses 1000 DP for each color this Digimon has, and it's at least going to have 2 colors because of its secondary ability, making sure that its Digivolution sources add to the color count that this Digimon is. And then when it comes to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Jesmon X Antibody. So we don't necessarily need to have a base form in order for this card to function, because this card's when digivolving ability sets itself up by allowing us to be able to play a Sistermon from our hand or trash for free. Then if it has a Jesmon underneath them, or there's a Sistermon in play, which we just set up with its when digivolving ability, then until the end of the opponent's turn, all of our Digimon are able to attack into the opponent's unsuspended Digimon, and they get a nice 2000 DP boost, so we could try to clear potential threats that we might not be able to deal with otherwise, while also natively having the piercing ability, guaranteeing the damage that we're going to be doing with this card. And then the base Jesmon that I actually am going to be running inside of the deck is going to be 1 copy of the brand new BT13 Jesmon. So this has some really decent levels of usability because we could trigger its main effects that we're looking to gain, whether we're hard playing it from our hand because we're desperate and we need to, or we're going to be digivolving into this card because we don't have any other level 6 at the time and we need to respond to what the opponent is potentially doing. So the ability we're gaining off of those 2 conditions is we get to choose any number of the opponent's Digimon whose DP adds up to 6,000 or less and then delete them, and then for every other Digimon that we have in play, then we get to increase the range by 2,000, so the more Digimon that we have in play, the bigger and more bodies we're able to potentially delete. Then it's a nice card for us to use as well when it's just passively sitting on our field, because it's going to be applying buffs to all of our other Royal Knight and Sistermons by giving all of those Digimon plus 1,000 DP for each one that we have, so it can make our really wide field that we're trying to build really, really tall as well. And then the other level 6 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Gankoomon X Antibody. So we don't need to run a base Gankoomon to make this card work, similarly to how the Jesmon X Antibody doesn't really need a base form for it to work either, just because its when digivolving ability sets itself up where we're going to be playing a Sistermon from our hand or trash for free, and then as long as we have a Gankoomon underneath it, which we won't have, but we will have a Digimon with Sistermon in its name in play to be able to trigger the effect where until the end of the opponent's turn, all of our Digimon gain plus 2,000 DP, again making them a little bit buffer on the offense and defense, on top of the fact that the opponent's effects can't return our cards back to the hand deck or have their DP reduced, adding even more protection into the deck. And then the last Digimon and only level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Jesmon GX. So what's making this card so good is the fact that its when digivolving ability allows us to throw a Royal Knight with a play cost of 13 or less from our hand or trash to the bottom of its Digivolution source, which we could set up very easily ourselves to be able to activate that card's when digivolving ability as if it was this Digimon's when digivolving ability. So we could utilize all of our different Digimon to do different things based on what we need at any given moment. And then this card also gains the Blitz ability, so when we digivolve into it, if the memory passes over onto the opponent's side, we could still attack with this card. Then on top of that, it has a nice all turns ability, which is really, really strong, where while this card has a Royal Knight's traded Digimon in its Digivolution source, which we should have at least 2, one from its when digivolving effect, and one for literally just digivolving into it because all of our level 6s are Royal Knights, where this card is going to gain blocker, piercing, and security attack plus for each one, so this card can potentially hit for a lot of damage the more we try to stack his sources with Royal Knights. And then the last card and only option of the deck is going to be 4 copies of From Master to Disciple. So this is another really powerful card for this deck, not only just making our cards more efficient, but also acting as another really good search tool for our Huckmon, Sistermon, and Royal Knight based cards. And then, even out of security, this card is still trying to help with the overall consistency of the deck while setting up its secondary main ability of Delay to try to make our Digivolutions a little bit cheaper, as well as the main ability already doing that as well. And then when it comes to the overall game plan and gameplay, we are basically just trying to focus more so on the BT13 line, because that's the line that's going to make us as tempo efficient going up into our level 6s to then try to control and limit what the opponent could possibly do, while we're trying to utilize all of our other cards while we're building our perfect stack in raising to be able to respond to the opponent in kind based on whatever they're going to be doing, to start not only just flooding the field and present a field threat to the opponent, but dig out our cards for our perfect stack as well. And then once we go into our level 6, we're going to control the field, limit the opponent's actions, and then go into our level 7 to try to apply even more pressure onto the opponent and reuse a lot of our effects to try to make it even harder for the opponent to be able to deal with our board state. So when it comes to the usage of our level 3s, I found myself most of the time just utilizing the BT7 one in raising because it actually has an inheritable ability, but the one I'm going to want to use in raising 9 out of 10 times is actually going to be the Huckmon from BT13 because of his inheritable ability to make playing our Sistermon as effective and cheap as we can possibly make it. We're only going to be utilizing the BT6 and the promo in raising if we literally don't have anything else and we need to try to do something, but most of the time I'm going to be using the BT6 one to hard play and try to dig out the parts and pieces that I need when I already have a rookie in my raising area. And the promo is just a good generic card to use because it also adds itself to our hand, so if we're stuck and we don't see a rookie and the opponent's trying to chip at us, that could actually harm the opponent by adding not only this card to our hand, but control the field or increase our hand size as well. But regardless, again, the whole point of this deck is geared more towards the BT13 line. So that sentiment is true when it comes to the level 4s that I'm going to be using. Obviously, the BT13 BaoHuck is going to be the primary one we're going to use, and just in case we need to do something and we don't have anything else, the BT6 BaoHuck is just the backup, and I use the BT6 BaoHuck to try to build my secondary stack with. But from this type of a position, I'm going to hold my level 4 in raising so I could find the rest of my combo pieces to be able to digivolve super efficiently into our high stage Digimon. So this is kind of the time period where I would use cards like From Master to Disciple or the Huckmon, or just start hard playing some Sistermons to be able to make sure I can find all of the proper parts and pieces. But once I find all of the parts and pieces, that's when I'm going to move out my Digimon, or if I need to try to respond to the opponent, I'm going to move them out anyway and be able to combo off from here. So from our level 4 stack out of raising, let's just say we're put at 3 memory, the main combo is going to revolve around utilizing the BT10 Ciel. So I'm going to hard play BT10 Ciel, put my opponent to 1. That's going to allow me to use the BaoHuck's ability because I played a Sistermon. I'll be able to digivolve into a Savior. This is where either of the Saviors doesn't really matter because the inheritable ability is the same on both of them. So for the sake of this example, let's just say I'm going to use the brand new one because I also could just use the brand new one and a Jesmon to do something very similar here. So I'm going to digivolve for 1 into whatever Savior I'm going to be having. Then that's going to allow me to then trigger the Ciel's on playability after the resolution of the level 4 or the level 5's ability. So that allows me to then digivolve my Digimon into a Royal Knight. So from my level 4, digivolving off of his ability into a Savior, using Ciel's ability, I then can just digivolve right away into a Jesmon. But if I used the level 5's ability, I will have to digivolve into a base Jesmon, and then from the base Jesmon, I could use Ciel's ability to digivolve into the X form and gain as much benefit off of my cards as I possibly can. But the way I've generally been playing is utilizing off of my level 4 to digivolve into my level 5 to then go into a Royal Knight. So from that type of position, let's just say I go into a Jesmon X Antibody. I will have to pay the full cost, but I will be able to trigger various other abilities from here. So once I've successfully digivolved off of my Sistermon Ciel, I would have gained a memory just for playing the Sistermon Ciel off of the Huckmon. I would have gained another memory, and then this is where I get to trigger Jesmon X Antibody's ability to play another Sistermon. So let's just say I play the old Sistermon Ciel. That will let me use the BaoHuck's ability to gain another memory, and Sistermon Ciel's ability to then gain yet again another memory. So you could see how memory efficient this deck can be, especially if I used from Master to Disciple. I could have reduced the Digivolution going into my level 5 by 1, so that way I still potentially would not have passed my turn in this type of a setup if I used the option card to reduce another Digivolution. So with this type of a play, I already have two Sistermons on the field, and I already have a Jesmon X Antibody. I could start swinging into the opponent's Digimon, start deleting their Digimon, and then that allows me to then potentially want to Digivolve into a Jesmon GX to either pass the turn or just hold off on a Jesmon GX play and make that type of a play later. But if I wanted to, I could just Digivolve into a Jesmon GX for 5, utilize his Blitz ability and his when Digivolving ability to shove another card like Gankoomon to the bottom of his inheritable sources, so I could gain Gankoomon's ability to be able to play out another Sistermon. Let's just say the Sistermon Ciel from the starter deck, so that way my cards will have blocker, reboot. They'll be able to attack into the opponent's Digimon. It'll deal lots of damage because of piercing, security attack plus, and various other things. So you could kind of see just how powerful of a combo play that this brand new BT13 line enables. And to try to extend my play even further, I could extend it in some alternative ways. So let's just say I did use that Master Disciple play, had this same setup, leaving myself at 0 memory. I could then use the two level 4 Sistermons that I had on the field to be able to DNA into a Kimeramon, to then shove another card underneath to be able to start forming a secondary stack right away to do various other different things with, depending on the situation setup and cards available and what the opponent is playing with. But you can kind of see from this a lot of the moving parts and pieces to be able to start making your plays even more efficient than ever before. And I know some of the more expensive parts and pieces might not be readily available to everyone, but you still have various other tech and tools that you could think about utilizing to hone in on what the deck is still trying to do and be able to play it even on a budget. And then there's still just a whole bunch of other tech and tools you could think about incorporating into the deck, all depending on what you actually want to gain out of the deck, what tools you have access to, and the different types of meta environments you're going to be going up against. So if you wanted to, you could think about teching in Sistermon as a really good floodgate for specific matchups. Then we do have the starter deck Huckmon that you could think about running. The inheritable isn't very important to what the deck is trying to do, just because we have a Sistermon that already gives us enough DP, but the static ability to just help us gain memory is still not bad at all. Then we do have another Sistermon that's actually worth playing in the form of Sistermon Blanc Awakened for some added recovery into the deck on top of good recyclability for some of your parts and pieces. Then we do have the starter deck at BaoHuck as just another BaoHuck that you could think about running. Again, the DP doesn't really matter all that much. Then we do have the BT6 SaviorHuck that we could think about running. It is limited to 1, but it could add some extra aggression on top of the fact that we do have various different Gankoomons that we could think about running as well. Then speaking of Royal Knights and an alternative level 7, we could even think about running the BT5 Blitzomnimon just because most of our Digimon are red or part red, so we could just use this as a good alternative game finisher. Then we do have some other options that are more dedicated towards what Jesmon is doing and interacting with our Huckmons or Sistermons, on top of the fact that we do just have some general good utility cards that we could think about running to increase the overall consistency or efficiency of the deck as well, like Red Memory Boost. Then if you are leaning heavier into the Jesmon GX build, we even can think about running Second Mepa just as a good card to synergize with it to try to get some extra damage in, as well as a tamer like Taikamiya to also think about using not only for the efficiency, but to get some extra damage in as well. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.